Hello everybody, Dick Dynasty 666. A few days ago I made a video on this channel called Debunking the Top 5 Left-Wing Myths of UKIP, and that video was obviously very satirical and was not intended to be taken seriously. It was not actually what I said it was. This video, however, is. I urge everyone to download a copy of this video. I'm not asking anyone to mirror it, that would be ridiculous, but download a copy of it because there's a good chance, based on what's happened in the run-up to this video and what I'm going to talk about, that this video may go by the wayside. But this has to be discussed and put out there. You see, there's a lot of people who seem to want to vote for UKIP and seem to want to vote for UKIP because they only seem to realise that UKIP is about getting out of the EU, and it's not. There's a million and one other problems that come along with them, and people seem to want to brush them to one side just because they've got an issue with the EU. Now, I've got all sympathy in the world for people who've got an issue with the EU, but if you're going to vote for UKIP based on that, I think you need to be fully aware, and you should be fully aware before you vote for them, what exactly you're getting in for. Last week, a member of the Green Party called Michael Abberton created an ironically titled viral picture called 10 Great Reasons to Vote for UKIP. The image itself listed 10 things that UKIP plan, or that he said UKIP plan to implement based on the policies that they had put in their manifestos and things they had said before previously in the press and in interviews. This image went viral, lots of people picked up on it and shared it around. It was therefore a big surprise to Michael Abberton when a few days later he receives a visit from the police. Apparently, a member of UKIP, who no one knows who this is, had complained to the police about this image, saying that it in some way needed to be taken down and the police needed to get involved. The police went to Michael Abberton. Now, to the police's credit, Michael Abberton said himself on his blog, The Acts of Reason, all links will be linked below, all links, and if you actually care about this issue, I genuinely urge you, actually go and look at the links. Don't just sit there and start hypothesizing, okay? On his blog, he said the police didn't tell him to take things down. They said that he had actually not violated any laws and that it was perfectly reasonable for him. They did, however, advise him maybe he should. He decided in the end he would take them down, but by this point, the Streisand effect, as it's known on the internet, had already kicked in and it was far too late. What actual laws was he violating? Well, according to the person who had made the complaint, they were worried that, and I quote, inquiries were made as to whether offences had been committed under the Representation of the People Act. Now, the specific part of the Representation of the People Act is this. It is an illegal practice to make or publish a false statement or fact about the personal character or conduct of a candidate in order to effect the return of a candidate at an election campaign. Election campaign publicity material must contain an imprint, not resemble a poll card, and not contain a false statement as to the personal character conduct of a candidate or party. The police determined that no violation of this had been made. There were 10 things stated in the viral image, and I'm going to list all of them in here. And I want to make this clear. If this video goes down because UKIP don't like this information being out there, I will not be the one taking it down. It will have gone down through other means. And yet still, at this point, nobody at UKIP has stepped forward to fully refute the points that were being made. Now, there has been an updated version of this image with links to sources that tell you. There are a couple of points on there that were so far put no source found. However, I have found sources that can back up these statements. So I'm going to go through them now. I'm going to put the image on the screen. I'll leave a link to it below. So you've got links to the sources. All the sources come from UKIP representative websites or UKIP's official website themselves. So here it is. If you vote for UKIP, this is what you're getting. Scrapping paid maternity leave. This is an interesting point because scrapping paid maternity leave was subsequently denied as being something that happened on UKIP. And as you can see, the link there takes you to Amjad Bashir. Amjad Bashir is the UKIP representative for small and medium-sized business, and it was on his website that this came from. However, as I'm about to show you here, this is a copy of 2 screenshots taken on Amjad Bashir's website, amjadbashir.co.uk, from on May 5th and on May 6th. The one on May 5th shows quite clearly that what was said in there about paid maternity leave being scrapped was on his website, and yet on May 6th, it's suddenly, strangely, been removed. What does this mean? Does this mean they've abandoned it, or do they just not want their real policies getting out? I've said this since day one, that UKIP's undoing will be when people finally start realising that they're not just about getting out of the EU. And when they realise what their other policies are, they will then see that this will be their undoing. This is why they're trying to censor this image going round, and this is why they're suddenly deleting their stuff in a very Orwellian manner to try and make it look like these people were lying about them. Raising income tax for the 88% of poorest Britons, scrapping your holiday entitlement, speeding up the privatisation of the NHS, cancelling all planned house buildings. Now that says there, that is no source for this claim. And to be fair, there is some contention as to whether or not this is still the case with UKIP. In 2010, their manifesto did state that this was their plan, that they were scrapping all planned house building. However, Nigel Farage and other UKIP members have since said that their 2010 manifesto, which is no longer publicly available, should no longer be considered to be taken as anything to do with their party's policies, even though a lot of the ones from their new manifesto still remain. However, I'll leave links to two sources below that show that actually this may still be a case of them actually having this policy. And interestingly, it's weird because this is a policy that a lot of people would actually agree with anyway, with them not building it, because it was specifically what they claim was that they were not going to build new housing on green belts. However, another UKIP member has since come forward and said that every bullet point on this meme, on this image, is fiction written by a Green Party activist. So we're now left with the confusion was, is this a case of, does UKIP still support this or not? We don't know. So we'll let that one go, but next one. Abandoning all action on climate change. We all know this is a case, this has been talked about frequently. They are big climate science deniers. Cancelling regulations to make banks safer. Now this one is no source found. However, there are two sources linked below. One comes from a website called The Yorker. I'll quote them there. According to their policy website, UKIP wants to further deregulate the city. Indeed, their primary reasons for leaving the EU relate to the need to cut such rights and regulations in the name of Citibank, of the city and big business. This point is backed up by an article that Nigel Farage himself wrote in The Independent back in January, and I'll quote that. And let's look closer to home from where the fault lies with the banking crisis. I know it might still be trendy to bash the bankers, but this crash was entirely predictable. It was Gordon Brown handing over regulation of the banking industry from the Bank of England, who since 1694 had done a pretty good job, and handed it over to the tick-box bureaucrats in Canary Wharf. So it's not the bankers' fault, it's the fault of the regulation. So they want to remove all regulation from banking to give them even more freedom to go and fuck everything up. So that one has got a source. Carrying on, abolishing laws to protect your human rights. Yes, we all know about that one. That's linked there to UKIP site. Making it legal for a man to rape or assault his wife. Now this is to do with an issue called marital rape. Believe it or not, it wasn't until I think the mid-90s in this country that marital rape was actually made illegal. That is, that a man, or to be fair, a man or a woman could rape their spouse and it would not be classified as rape because they're married. Well, UKIP want to get rid of that law and bring back the good old days when you could just get what you want off your partner, whether they wanted to or not. That alone should ring bells with you. Do you want to vote for a party that would make it legal for a man or a woman to rape their partner? Because I think that on its own would be enough for me not to. But that's just me, you know, I've got standards. And the final one is cutting education spending and buying 3 aircraft carriers instead. The defence on buying aircraft carriers instead has got a source there. However, they would buy aircraft carriers instead. That the instead shouldn't really be there, but UKIP have made it clear that they will make cuts in education spending. This is the party you're voting for when you vote for UKIP. And don't give me all of this. And in that video I made the other day, right, I got not one fucking decent refutation point. All I got was people making excuses. Right? All I got was people trying to get around this and just say, oh, they're part of a smear campaign. It's not a fucking smear campaign if you're telling the truth about them. This is not a frigging smear campaign, and it speaks volumes that a libertarian party, right, a party that claims to be for freedom and liberty, right, would actually want to just try and get this guy arrested for making this image. Well, there's the image for you, and I've just given you the information there, so I urge you to spread this video around. And in case you think this is an isolated incident, and this is just a one-off, let me show you something else, and I'll leave a link to this. This is not a Photoshop either. This is from the UKIP Kent division. Right? This is a UKIP press release from UKIP Kent, Janice Atkinson, an MEP candidate, right, suggesting that any protesters that they label anti-racist protesters, any protesters, right, from groups like Unite Against Fascism and Hope Not Hate, but any protesters in general, right, should not be, if they in any way call their supporters, and it says there on the second line, they are formally asked the Chief Constable to arrest any protesters who call our supporters fascist, right, hurl other abuse or physically assault. Now, obviously, physical assault is illegal already, so that you don't need to ask them to arrest anyone. But they want anyone arrested who calls them a fascist, and they want it to be registered as a hate crime, which is fucking amazingly ironic considering UKIP would ban hate crime laws. This is just another example of the two-faced, hypocritical, double-standard, spineless bullshit you see from all of these fuckers on there. They're all big and bravado and in your face, and the second they get it back, they want to ban this, censor that, and take that down. Right? And if this is what you want, if you want to vote for this, right, then fair play. If that's what you want. But if you're someone who doesn't want any of that, right, you just don't want to be in the EU, you might as well be voting for any other party. You might as well vote for BNP. You might as well vote for Britain First, because you're voting for the same bunch of delusional fucktards who haven't got a fucking clue what they're going on about and would tear this fucking place down to the ground, right? They would burn this motherfucker down. And you're going to take them with him, right? And if you're still going to vote for him after all this, right, if you're going to live in denial, right, then I have simply to say, fuck you, right? And I know people who are still fucking choosing to vote for these people despite all that, right? Despite all just the stupid comments about gays and the stupid racism. This is policy. And if you let this happen, it's on you. Dick Dynasty 666. Share this video around. Let everyone else know. Good night, may God bless.